Hello everyone. Today we have Operation Floodgate 15 on Mythic difficulty as a Master of Harmony monk. I've timed 4 more 15s other than this one. I just didn't get to record them, but this one I got footage of. This is the route we took. We used heroism in 3 different spots. We could have used it on the third boss, but we opted to save it for later just in case, and it turned out to be good. And these are the talents. At this point, I feel like they don't really make too much of a difference, so I just rotate them every once in a while. As for the gear, as you can see, I have 4-piece mythic now, and also mythic legs. I managed to upgrade some of my items to max hero. I also got a new ring, mythic version of the ritual bone band in my vault today. And the 2 trinkets, ringing ritual mud and improvised euphorium pacemaker. Same as always. So here we go. At the start of the run, we've changed the route compared to the 10 video that I had before. This one is mainly because we get more use out of the heroism. Here you can just roll forward and then use lighter than air to kind of jump over the little lip there. Black Ox statue into AoE taunt to make sure that I have aggro and everything. That undercrawler, I pulled it by mistake. Sometimes other people can pull it just by being too close to the river, but it's fine. A little bit of lag, but we're doing okay using our defensives. Ringing Ritual Mud and Dampen Harm have been used. We have 3 seconds left on Dampen Harm, but I still have lower cooldowns on my brew, so I'm not too worried. We're doing okay. The healer is making sure that I'm not getting destroyed, which is a common problem with Brewmaster, sadly, in these huge pools. There I had to use Ring of Peace to knock out all of the other mobs away from me, just so I could cut some of the damage intake. Always making sure to interrupt the surveyors, because as you can see, they do this ability that deals a lot of ticking damage on the target. Sometimes it targets the healer and it's pretty much GG at that point, because the healer can't really recover from healing themselves and myself at the same time.
Watch your step.
So this pool, fairly easy. I think the DPS was a little bit low. Boomy did good DPS, but I think the Windwalker and the Rogue's damage was probably a little bit low. That could just be because I'm used to seeing Unholy Death Knights and Warlocks doing like 11 mil DPS on these pools. But for this pool here, I'm trying to get that pack with the Surveyor into the Architect pack. It helps if the DPS interrupts the Surveyor. You know, you can only do so much. You have one interrupt and you kind of want to save it for emergencies. Here I pulled those 2 divers just because we need them for the count. You can save them for later, but it's better if you pull them here just because they're already there. Those 2 crabs that pulled, they were accidental. One of them was supposed to be on purpose. I was supposed to pull it, but somebody else pulled it, so can't really do anything about it at this point. They do a lot of damage if you're not watching them. If they get around to hitting you from the back, which happens quite a while if you're not paying too much attention. So here, pulling the next pack. I kind of messed up here, and I think the healer got aggro. So I just kind of rolled around to the back to make sure I got them. Those Euphorium bombs are a pain in the butt because the DPS and the healer sometimes they get too into what they're doing that they forget that they're standing next to them and they blow up and they kill them. So you take damage from 2 different sources when the bomb blows up. 1 from the explosion and 2 from the fall damage, because it knocks you up in the air. So you're pretty much dead if you're a DPS or the healer without having any heals on you. So that's something you have to kind of pay attention for. Also, these loader bots, try to have a stun for them, just so that they're not cleaving the entire DPS down. Here you want to prioritize the demolitionists just because they do these little, rocket circles and they can kill people, especially if we're all clumped up together. Ring a piece to knock them in closer to me. You can rotate your crowd control. So for example, There I used paralysis to prevent the reload from going off. Because after the reload goes off, he'll start casting his RPG. So there I'm waiting for it again, interrupt, and then I have my stun, but he's pretty low, so I opt not to use it. Once these mobs are low, you can actually start chain pulling into them to kind of speed everything up. See that I do it right here. So I pull this pack and get some threat on the snipers before I run up the stairs, and then lightning, lightning. Drop Blackhawk statue for the AoE taunt. It hit most of them and missed some of them, as you can see the little loader bots in the back. Good on the Windwalker to knock them into me. But again, I wouldn't choose this positioning. I would have probably dragged them either up there to the corner or down, because since you're on the stairs, you're line of sighting the healer, and you don't want to do that. The healer's trying to not be too close to all of the mobs, because again, the loader bots do an AoE, and if the healer's in there, he's gonna get clipped. There I had to use Touch of Death. I used it defensively. It clears your stagger. So I was staying in the red for a while before I had to use Fortifying Brew. And again, this could have been avoided if I would have positioned this a lot better. If I wouldn't have been half on the stairs and then half on the top floor. So you can just pull them a little bit towards where the garbage pile is at on the right, and you'll be fine. You're not going to pull the boss or anything. And it gives your range a little bit of space to kind of navigate. There, Blackhawk statue in the boss so that they all gather around it. I'm telling you, that's one of the best things that you can do with Blackhawk statue.
Defensive.
It helps with grouping range mobs. It definitely helps a lot. You'll see it later on how I used it again to group range mobs, but it's definitely very helpful. Making sure that I interrupt that AoE. So one thing that you can do here for the Electro Crush is have a 5-stack, maybe even a 3-stack Celestial Brew. There I didn't have it because I was pretty good on health, but Electro Crush can hit upwards of 9 million. You want to make sure that you have a defensive for it. You probably don't need to use the major defensive if you do Blackout Kick into Celestial Brew. That 3-charge Celestial Brew should be enough, but you should also make sure that you're using a minor defensive. If you feel like you're taking too much damage, then use Dampen Harm, and you should be okay.
Defensive.
So there's a specific thing that you have to do here with these mobs. You have to bait these long... You have to bait those long things into the side where you're at, so that they kind of stall there and you can DPS them. So as you can see there, that long one should have been baited into the boss, not over there, because now he's stalling over there shooting at people. The rogue got knocked off the edge of the platform, and again, this was my mistake because I shouldn't be tanking it this close to the edge. But the reason I do that is because it gives me the ability to navigate around the edge, so that when they do the frontal sonic boom, I don't get hit. But a lot of DPS are still like not great at managing that, so that's another headache. There, I thought about using exploding keg, but I decided to save it so that I can generate threat on the mobs. As you can see there, I used it to tag those two in the back and then get all of these together. As you can see, there's Celestial Brew kind of help mitigate a lot of the damage on there, but it still managed to get me in the red. So you definitely want to use a defensive for it. Don't ever let it go off without a defensive. This fight particularly, I was aiming at the mecha drones more than I was DPSing M.O.M.A, because if you saw in the previous phase, some of the mobs were up for like 2-3 seconds before she knocked off her shield to do jump start. So again, I just want to prioritize the mecha drones. My DPS can
Killing
funnel her if they
Gigazap.
want. It's fine. As you can see here, that's what we do because she's low. She's already at 15%. So there again, exploding keg to tag those two, and then I tagged the
Defensive.
other two into me. There I had to use dampen harm because I was below 10 mil. That probably would have killed me, and then that would have ended the run. So dampen harm definitely saved me there. What I could have done here was pull the two mobs behind me into the boss, but I
Defensive.
decided not to do it just because I wanted to play it safe. But those two contractors back there, I could have pulled them into the boss so that we could have cleaved some damage into them. Because as you can see, as you'll see, the next pull is a bit dangerous, especially in a 15. Like in a 10, 11, it's not too scary if the healer is geared, but here it's something, and you'll see right now. Blackhawk statue here again to aggro everything, and then AOE taunt them onto myself, right? Pull back, exploding cake, and then this is where the heart stuff starts. So warp blood puts an absorb on everyone. So you got to make sure that you use your chi burst there offensively and defensively. What I mean by that is if you stack 5 stacks of stratagem, so by using 5 melee abilities, it increases the damage and healing by 25%. Oh, 20%, sorry. That definitely helps. It's anywhere from 1 mil to 2.5 mil extra healing on your team if you aim it straight into the pack. As you can see, they were all kind of grouped together. So, kind of important for you to keep that in mind, and that's something that you will be using a lot here on the third boss. So, Chi Burst being a very important ability here. So here we already know we're gonna lust interrupt that
Watch your
exploding
step.
keg to get good amount of threat there, because the minute they come in close and they
Watch
come
your
into
step.
contact with all of these mobs, the DPS is going to be ramping them like crazy. So there again, shooting chi burst into my teammates and tossing a Bibify whenever I can.
Watch your step.
And again, the demolitionist probably should have been killed first, just because
Watch your step.
those RBGs can kill you. If you stand in it, you will die. Whether you're a tank or whether you're something else, you're gonna die. But I really have to commend the healer.
Watch your step.
He or she, they did amazing, honestly. To survive this pull, man, definitely. And you'll see later on, they do really good. This is a very healer-intensive dungeon in certain parts. Here, I'm just trying to get some threat on all the divers, and you hit them, and then you come up here immediately. So, exploding keg again, just to make sure I have, threat on everyone.
Watch your
And
step.
then you bait them together. So
Watch your
this is the
step.
important part. As you can see, they're dropping Sephorium bombs, right? You can delay it
Watch your step.
with stuns,
Watch your
CC
step.
knockups. Beam doesn't really do anything. They're a use ring of peace.
Watch your
But
step.
what you want to do is, whenever you see them drop, you just pull them away,
Watch
right?
your
You kind
step.
of kite away because you don't want to have your DPS or your healer standing in them. So as you can see, I'm pinging where I'm going to drag them, right?
Watch your step.
I'm all the way at the edge. I'm safe. They're not. Those bombs are not gonna hit me, and they shouldn't hit your DPS if they're paying attention to them, right?
Watch your step. Watch
There,
your
the
step.
monk wasn't paying attention and he got blown up. But again, you pull them away, interrupt those harpoons because they
Watch
slow you
your
down.
step.
And then I'm trying to pull the architect to the corner, just so that when he does rapid construction, it won't spawn on top of the bombs. If it spawns on top of any of those bombs, we're gonna have to wait for them to blow up, or we're gonna have to play chicken with it to see if we can kill it before it blows up. And you kind of don't want to put anyone in that situation. Here, you run along the edge of the stairs, ring a piece those so that they don't aggro anything. And again, Blackhawk statue, super important. Super
Watch
important.
your step.
AoE taunted, you know,
Frontal. Frontal.
a lot of this stuff is
Watch your step.
a bit complicated here. Normally in these runs, if you have a
Watch your
warlock,
step.
you opt to skip it. There are other ways of skipping it. Normally you don't want to
Frontal.
do this pack. This pack is not really efficient. Takes
Frontal.
up a lot of time, and it can be very healer and like tank intensive, as you can see. Everybody's just taking
Watch
damage.
your step. Watch your step. Frontal.
I'm just trying to face them away so that when they do the frontal, it's not towards my DPS. There, I'm okay with taking a bit of the hit from the frontal. I'm not gonna die. I was at pretty decent
Watch
amount
your
of
step.
health. I
Watch
was
your
gonna run
step.
up the stairs, but decided not to because you don't want to drop one of the saw blades in the stairs. As soon as everybody starts to run up there, you're gonna take a hit, and we don't want that.
Welcome to the firing range.
Blackhawk statue to bait him in for the exploding keg, and off we go.
Defensive. Frontal.
So now one of the cool things about monks with hasty provocation is that you roll to where quick fuse is at, you taunt Bront, and he runs there. So something that's kind of important that you want to do is you want to position Bront, right? So as you can see there, I positioned him so that he can hit 2. He probably could have hit 3
Target you.
if the DPS would have positioned him a bit better. There, I missed that bomb, I think.
Defensive.
So just pinging them, letting them know to just keep an eye on it. Again, this healer is amazing because most people die when they get knocked up with the bomb. So again, roll away, taunt. He runs straight into it, so you want to have as much cleave
Defensive.
uptime as you can. There, I don't need to move him too much. There's 3 bombs, sorry, right there. That's probably not what I would have done. I would have just got him up there to get those 3 like he did. There, I'm trying to pay attention to where I'm supposed to move him to, but obviously we had already taken care of all the bombs. And again, 1 Celestial Brew is enough to tank this. And this just rinse and repeat. Alright, so that's this boss down. So now we move on to the next one. Normally you would want to lust this next boss just because he's one of the tougher ones. It's a heal check, so you have to be careful there. There, I'm pinging them not to fall on top of those mobs in case they forget. Sometimes people forget. So pulling them all in. There, Blackhawk statue into AoE taunt. Kind of failed and missed 1. That's fine. So this is kind of where you want to rotate your crowd control. Here we kind of messed it up. The beam, not touching anyone. He kind of messed up his vortex thing there. But it's only because the monk, as you can see there, the Windwalker dropped his ring of peace, so he kind of kept them out of it. So you kind of always want to pay attention to that and make sure that you can try to coordinate as much as you can without comms. If you're not in Discord or anything, so yeah. This is probably some of the harder trash, but it kind of helps set up the rhythm for the boss because during the boss fight, everybody's taking a lot of AoE damage. So generally, if the healer can't heal these 6 mobs, it's gonna be a problem. The boss is definitely gonna be hard. So you're gonna have to plan accordingly to that. And if you remember from before, when we were doing the first Blood Warper, I told you that having 5 stacks of your stratagem talent to increase the damage and healing from your chi burst helps, this is really where it stands out. And you'll see why. So taunted into
Stack. Defensive.
Keck Smash. I
Line,
probably
gather.
should have started with Celestial
your
Brew
step.
before pulling it, but again, these things happen.
Watch your step.
So here, I'm gonna ping where we're gonna move, right? So everybody's moving. There I'm gonna chi burst early. As you can see, 1.8 mil healing on the entire group. And then a
Defensive.
Vivify for 3 mil. So
Line.
as a Brewmaster, you're offering a very good amount
Watch your
of
step.
off healing. Especially here. So a 1.8 mil heal is definitely a lot and can definitely help out your healer, especially get him out
Watch
of
your
a
step.
tough situation. And your chi burst cooldown kind of also lines up with it. Again, there, chi bursting into the whole group just to make sure that you're providing some healing.
Defensive. Line. Gather.
I'm not too worried about
Watch
dying
your
to this boss, simply because again, a 3-stack Celestial Brew is enough to help you with the Tank Buster.
Watch your step.
Here, I'm gonna ping where we're gonna move. So it's kind of important for you to ping and then start rotating so they know, like, oh, this is where we have to move. And the reason for that is exactly for this. You're kind of helping them navigate to a spot where there's more
Defensive.
open area. Since there's gonna be more open
Line,
area, it's
gather.
easier for everybody to dodge those waves.
Watch your step.
And that's this whole boss. You just rinse and repeat that again. Always making sure that you
Watch your
shoot
step.
your chi burst into the group. It helps. It works a lot because everybody's already stacked. There, I threw Vivify off on the Boomy, and as you can see, it definitely made a difference. So
Stack.
don't be afraid to
Defensive.
use your instant Vivify on your healers, on your
Line,
teammates. It definitely helps.
Watch your step.
That pretty much concludes the quote-unquote easy part of the dungeon. Now this is the hard part because as you can see, we have roughly 10 minutes to finish the dungeon, and we have a lot of stuff to do here. I got confused with the Boomy. He says we can skip. So I'm like, so do it. But he's telling me to do it. And I tell him that I can't. So we wasted probably a good 10 seconds there or something. And then he's just like, pull it. I'm just like, yeah. So, as a Brewmaster, unless you're a Night Elf, can't really
Watch
skip
your
this.
step.
You're just gonna have to do it. So that's something else that you're gonna have to kind of program into your run. And it's probably also the reason why Brewmasters are probably not gonna get too far unless you're a Night Elf here, because this is gonna become a mandatory pull. If you can't pull it and then Shadow Melt it, your group can skip it. Which kind of sucks because
Watch your
again,
step.
when ratios kind of dictate how you can complete a dungeon, it kind of takes the fun out of it, right? Because I like to play human monk, and if I wanted to compete, I'm gonna have to re-roll into a night elf, so I'm gonna have to change my race into night elf, and I kind of don't want to do that.
Watch your step.
So there, when you get too many bubbles, what you can do is you can use the defensive and then just kind of run into them. There, the rogue, I think he used an ability and then just ran through all of them. Very good on his behalf. But so far we're doing okay. We're 33 seconds, maybe 23 seconds ahead because of the time waste. From my 14 time, and we have 2 deaths. So essentially, we can afford to have 1 more death, and then we'll be pretty much at the same pace as my other time. And again, Blackhawk statue into AoE taunt if you need it. But normally here, I wouldn't recommend AoE taunting because you can pull that big guy in the side there. The Blackhawk statue has a pretty big range, and you kind of don't want to do that. Druid is telling me to keep pulling, and I'm like, yep, we're gonna have to keep going. Um, that was a little bit dangerous because the inspector probably could have killed everyone there. But I'm just trying to make sure that I have enough threat on everyone before I keep moving. Double contractors, trying to pull them in. Again, making sure that I have enough threat on everybody so that I can keep going. Once I see that I have enough threat and that everybody's comfortable, we keep going. I'm gonna go into the next room and pull the next two inspectors. There, that one is far away. Need somebody to interrupt it. They go in. They go in for it. So we're already racing against time. Here we have 7 minutes left, pretty much. 6 minutes and a half. 6 minutes and a half, meaning that we have to complete these next two pulls in 2 minutes.
Frontal.
2 minutes 30 seconds probably at the most. So it's a bit scary. So as you can see there, I started to get a little bit sloppy because I started panicking. Everything was just kind of like everywhere. I'm not trying to get anybody killed. If we get one death, it's pretty much over because by the time they run here, run back, it's a DPS loss because now we have to wait for them to run back. And we're DPSing all this stuff without an extra DPS. So, again, kind of crazy.
Defensive. Frontal.
There I used diffuse magic on the initial pull just because I wanted to help mitigate a lot of the damage that you take. If those two electricians get their cast off, you're going to take 2 hits plus the jump starter's damage. So I had to start off with diffuse magic to make sure that I wasn't going to get one shot. And again, you don't want to stand in the circles because you will die. If you stand in the circles, you're going to take a huge hit and you're going to die. Here I honestly seriously contemplated on pulling this one into the other two, but I kind of was like, you know what, let's take it easy, let's slow it down. And then this is when our druid says, you know, mark one and lust, and I'm like, yep, let's do that. Sounds like a good idea. I mark one and taunt. Let's go. The DPS is really good here. They're definitely targeting the one, and we got very lucky with the circles as well, because you can see not a lot of them spawned in areas where they were cutting us off. We always had a good amount of space to stand in. Sometimes it just cuts off everything and you just have to wait till they disappear before you can go back in DPS. But if you see there, what I was doing, I was just kiting around in a circle. Just making sure that I had enough space on all sides for my DPS and the healers to stand in. We're down to 4 minutes 20 seconds. I think we pulled the boss around 4 minutes 10 seconds. This was dangerous too because the circles could have covered the entire hallway. But we make it. And here comes the final boss. We don't have lust, but it's fine. Our DPS has been pretty good up until this point, so we don't really have to worry about anything. Here, Chi Burst definitely helps. Since everybody is kind of gathered around in a small area, you can Chi Burst into where the majority of your party is to help with the healing there. You just kind of have to time it so you don't get hit with the lightning. This one again is not too bad of a boss ability. You can use a 3-stack Celestial Brew to mitigate it. And so here what you want to do is you can actually roll through the water, right? When there's no lightning in it, you can roll through the water and you'll be fine. Here I'm trying to position the boss so that I can get my lightning in there, but also when I get hit with Thunder Punch, so I don't get knocked off the platform. If I got knocked off the platform, that would have been it. And that would have been very tragic.
AOE incoming. Stay away
And that's
from lines.
the entirety of the fight. You just do the same thing again. There I'm trying to time it so that I can Chi Burst to help with the healing. But I couldn't get it off completely because I kind of did it a little bit wrong. And I managed to get it off at the end where, you know, there's really not much more healing I can add to since the healer already kind of topped them all off. But that's the whole fight, so enjoy. So there we go. We timed it. I think if we would have had somebody die, we wouldn't have timed it just because getting them back up and then for them to get back into the DPS would have been crazy. And again, improvised Euphorium Pacemaker. I don't need it. I'm asking them if they want it. The druid ends up taking it. And the damage and healing meters, 2 mil damage overall. I feel like I've been improving a lot, so this was definitely very nice to see. Overall healing 1 million. I've never had that before, but again, working on rotations definitely have been helping me out. And as we can see, Blackout Kick being number one, no surprise. Overwhelming Force and Aspect of Harmony dot, a lot of damage. Chi Burst is pretty high because of the stacks of Stratagem. 5 stack into Chi Burst for 20% more damage and healing. It's no surprise the Celestial Brew is number one. Celestial Fortune, pretty high. Overhealing comes from just the healer healing me because of my crit. Gift of the Ox, I've been trying to manage a lot better so I don't have too much overheals. But other than that, pretty good. So that's Operation Floodgate 15. I've already timed Dark Flame Clef, Priory, the Motherlode, and Mechagon. I'm just missing Cinder Brew, Theater Pain, and the Rookery. But those are kind of hard to get into, and those are some of the ones where if you fail the first pull, it's pretty much over. Or if the DPS isn't keeping up, it's pretty much over. But hopefully I can time another 15. I feel like I'm capping out because it's harder to get into groups. But we'll see. See you in the next one. Take care.